What I really love about Star Wars is the fact that it is the best expression of what Joseph Campbell called the hero's journey that we've had in our time.
Look, it's amazing that he hit these notes he hit. It's amazing that he hit it with a new generation. You know, he gets flack from one side, he gets love from another. For me, it's really not just about George. It's about the amazing collaborators that worked with him. I mean, he couldn't break the ground he broke without Ben Burtt, without Dykstra, without Ken Walston, John Williams.
Music.
Like,
you can't overstate the importance of John Williams.
Oh my goodness. And John Barry taking a motorcycle, leathers and sticking it on the shoulder of a stormtrooper. And now you're a desert trooper.
Yeah, all those guys.
Well, and look, and I mean, that's part of the reason I'm not a fan of the prequels. Like, I don't like Doug Chiang's design approach. I don't like Tattersall's DP work. I mean,
right.
To me,
those,
the below the line quality of the films is not what the first three films are.
It is fascinating that they definitely are two different eras.
And the direction.
I'll give George points for remaining someone who could deliver films for the next generation. That is phenomenal.
Absolutely.
It's amazing that a director could basically take what he did, and granted, if and then there's always the prequels had come out first, but then we get back to Kyle's point about timing, and timing really is relevant in this case, absolutely. My favorite part about the prequels is that he did come out and say it's all about I hate Cheney. I was like, yeah, indictment of the Bush years. That was, I thought, really heroic on his part, that he came out and said, yeah, no, the emperor is Bush. I thought that was just
well, it was interesting because he has some very sophisticated, people knock the politics. I actually thought the politics were interesting, this whole Imperial Senate and all that. But, then you're trying to balance that with some of the kiddie stuff.
And here's some more love for George. He really wanted to make Apocalypse Now. He really wanted to indict America for Vietnam, and he was able to do that in the prequels. And he said it himself from the horse's mouth that that's what it was, and I really admire him for that.
Yeah, what's interesting about the politics of Star Wars is the Emperor, even as a character. I mean, it's fascinating that how patient was to make a character. That's how he rose to power. It just wasn't pure, sinister, murdering people. He almost never uses the Force in the prequels. And the interesting thing is the Sith in the prequels, they always tell the truth when they're in key positions, with the Jedi in the original trilogy are always lying. There's all these really cool parallels, and scenes are almost hitting emotionally at the exact same timing as in their movie. The characters, Luke and Anakin, are going through these parallels. So there are these fascinating things, the way he plotted it.
I agree, and one of my favorite scenes in the prequel is the scene at the Opera House. The scene between Anakin and the Emperor, which is basically the big, turn. I think that's a great scene. I mean, I love that.
Do you think the Emperor created him?
Yes and no. I will say this, that I think it was Dan Weber who said it would have been a much more interesting movie had Obi-Wan, had he found out that Obi-Wan was involved with Padme, and then it would have given Obi-Wan a lot more reason
the Emperor played that.
It should have played that. Yeah,
that's what
totally. It would have been much more Shakespearean, and it could have been a lot more interesting, and it would have given, if Anakin had believed that, it would give him a return against Obi-Wan or Return for Guilt. It's just it could have been, if it had just been a little edgier.
The greatest Star Wars story is the novelization for Revenge of the Sith. If you haven't read it or listened to the audiobook, it's 14 hours, it's fantastic, but it gets into the nuances and inside Anakin's head as he breaks down and how he's played by both sides. And
I'm waiting for you to turn it into a radio drama. Let's talk about, Star Wars was sort of in a period after Revenge of the Sith where, it lied fallow for a little bit. There was, talk of a TV series that never happened. I don't think anyone suspected, because even Lucas would say in interviews, it's done, I told the story I wanted to tell, right? And we all hoped, it would be great to see this universe again. So tell me a little bit about that period for you, and then sort of where you were. It's like when Kennedy was shot. Where were you when you heard that Disney had bought Star Wars, and not only had they bought Star Wars, but there would be a new trilogy in 2014, going back to what George Lucas originally said, that it was a 9-part saga, and then it was a 3-part, and then it was a 6-part, and now it's a 9-part again.
It was a 12-part one.
Oh yeah, that's right.
When I was at USC, a student at USC Film School, they do these discussions every Thursday, and they tape record all of them. And I looked in the archives to see what they had, and they had an interview with George Lucas from late 1977, and I listened to the audio tape where he says it's a 12-part story.
And he told Mark, I think, on set that he was going, that around 2011, you're going to come back and you're going to be like this old Jedi. You know, and really that would have been for episode, what was that, like 10?
Right.
But instead it's going to happen, I guess, with 7. So that's incredible. I found out before the news, like a couple months before, and because there was something I was working on, and then they're like, well, keep this in the back of your head.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine
what?
that people lit on it. That was
I
amazing.
can't tell anybody? What?
Yeah, it's amazing that they were able to keep that.
And apparently George's been developing it for a couple of years before, and there's, you know, art and all this stuff, and it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to sell it to Disney, I better come up with some stories. It was something he was already developing. And when I heard it was JJ, there was a lot of names mentioned, I was like, please not that person. Please not that person. Because if they had announced Irvin Kershner, or Irvin Kershner type director now, with the internet, people would be like, who the fuck is Irvin
Totally
Kershner?
right.
Fuck you!
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
And it would be terrible. But George put faith in a guy like Irvin Kershner because he's the best person to tell the story. I think with JJ, he found the best person to tell the story, who can channel it through him.
Well, it's interesting, Steve, because JJ's already had a test run in doing a Star Wars movie. He did Star Trek, which was so influenced, and I'm not saying it's a bad way, but it was so influenced by Star Wars. The love of Star Wars is in every frame of Star Trek.
Well, he had been on the record prior to that saying that he was more of a
Yeah,
Star
so-
Wars fan than a
So
Star
everyone
Trek fan.
involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, Berkey and George and JJ and the Lindelof and all those guys are huge Star Wars fans. So
Michael Arndt, the screenwriter, is, yeah. he's a
yeah,
huge-
no. So I mean, you know, let's to continue. You know, what Kyle was just stressing. Sort of, what was your feeling when you heard the news, and you know, what are your hopes, dreams, and you know, feelings about the future? Is there a disturbance in the force?
I was shocked. I was not privy to the news in advance, so I heard it when everyone else did. I was excited at the prospect of seeing new films, and you know, I thought Star Wars was as vibrant as ever up until that point. With Clone Wars has been very popular, and all the other things that have been going on. You know, the franchise, I think, was very much alive at that point, as Kyle had said. There's a certain wistfulness or sadness in that Star Wars always was this personal vision that George had, or George and his small group of trusted collaborators. That was made, all those decisions were made up at that mythical place of Skywalker Ranch, and it was this separate thing that was, you know, that was its own thing. And when I was invited on board to work on Clone Wars, that was such a magical experience to be invited into that place to help make this new iteration of Star Wars. And my concern is, and I think I'm echoing what Kyle said, is that these new custodians of it, you know, I don't want it to become just another studio franchise. And it never felt that way when it was something that George was wholly responsible for.
Who's nostalgic now?
Yeah, I don't want it to become, you know, just that
Right.
that sausage factory, like, oh, we gotta have a new Star Wars movie
Sure.
every year or two, you know,
Sure.
and just cranking them out. I don't
Like
think,
the Marvel master plan. You were
yeah,
worried
and
about
and
that.
I don't think that will happen because Kathleen Kennedy is involved, and she's been working with George since Raiders, if not before.
Since
She's the right person.
She's
since
been,
I think Spielberg introduced her to Lucas on.
she was an assistant producer.
Yeah,
on
yeah, but she was
Raiders.
Spielberg's
Raiders, yeah.
assistant.
She has a credit on
Yeah,
Raiders.
that's what she meant, Lucas.
So
Yeah.
she's known him at least since 1980, if not before, and is a very capable, shrewd, smart filmmaker and producer. So I
She'll be able
think,
to protect.
yes,
his
she'll be able,
values.
exactly.
Ashley.
Yeah, I'm just more hopeful because I've seen what Disney has been able to do with Star Wars up to this point with Star Tours and Star Wars weekends. I've been so intimately involved in that event now for 5 years. They bring a level of perfection to the franchise that so many other companies don't, and I'm just hopeful that they'll continue to bring that to Star Wars. And I also think just hearing this whole conversation here, one thing I've noticed, anybody who gets the chance to work on Star Wars, I think realizes that it's a privilege. It's not a job. It's a privilege. And everyone, it almost makes you want to work harder for this job. Not that I'm not the type of person to go to a job and only work halfway. Like, I'll definitely give you 100%, but it's almost like you want to go that extra 110% because it's Star Wars. And, you know, it's such a team effort. Everyone wants to raise the bar continuously, and so I think that's what's gonna continue to happen. And I'm hopeful for the future. I really am. I can't look at it any other way.
So Chris, we're 3 for 3 so far. What do you think? You excited about the future? A new hope indeed, or?
I'm so excited. There is no other interest on earth that could protect Star Wars like Disney. You can say, and sure, for those people at LucasArts, I'm very sorry for them. And you know, these kinds of things are going to happen in redistribution. And the thing is, it was always a Disney movie. George Lucas is a little baby boomer. Even Spielberg grew up watching Disney films. He reminded
The Emperor was a Disney character.
He reminded Disney what Disney was. When Star Wars comes out, Disney is floundering, about to be sold off for parts before Eisner and Wells come in and save it.
Yeah.
He reminds Disney, this is what you guys used to do when I was a kid. Where the hell are you? So I'm very excited about it. I think it's going to be. I think it transcends filmmakers. I think it goes beyond whatever J. I think I have hope for JJ. I think it's going to be great. But I think in the long term, you're talking about something that is now at the level of King Arthur. You're talking about secular mythology. You're talking about something that is going to outlive all of us. I just bought my daughter her first lightsaber, and she'd never seen that.
One-sided or two-sided?
One-sided. So I'm very hopeful. The Disney culture is amazing. I'm a big Disney fan. I'm kind of a Disney Walt historian. I love the story of Walt and Roy and what they were able to do and how they were able to scrape it together. And it's interesting too, because Walt would always say, if it wasn't for the Depression, I never could have done it. And you know, here we are in another one. So.